Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to episode 14 of Chess Basics, things every chess player ought to know. Today we're going to continue our study of mating patterns with the famous Philidor mate. So Philidor was another 18th century French chess player. He was a student of Legal, who we studied last time. And he gets his own mate named after him too, although according to the Wikipedia article, it was actually first published in a book in 1497, so Philidor gets credit for this some 250 years after it was originally discovered. Philidor is best known today for a book that he wrote, The Analysis of Chess, and in it he came up with the saying, "Pawns are the soul of chess," which is pretty interesting saying, particularly considering the time that he wrote that, in which there was a lot of emphasis on piece play and dramatic sacrifices and combinations, flashy tactics involving pieces. So to come up in that environment with the idea that pawns are the soul of chess was a pretty interesting and novel way of looking at it. And it's been shown to be largely true. Although chess is still 99% tactics. And anyway, so let's show you an example of Philidor's mate. Here, this one came from a game that I played. I'm black here, and my opponent has got a strong queenside attack, but I have all my pieces set up for a kingside attack, and he hasn't got a great defensive formation here. He's set up to attack, but not to defend, and so my attack is just quicker here. He's attacking on the queen side, and I'm attacking his king. So I start out with bishop takes e3, and that directly threatens the mate in two. And he doesn't notice it, or perhaps he was playing into it. He didn't see any better moves, and he played knight takes d5, just grabbing another pawn and increasing his advantage on the queen side. But now there's just a mate in two, and the way the Philidor mate works is first you go in with the queen, check. Now the bishop supports the queen here, which is important because otherwise the king might take it. But now the king can't take it because it's protected, so the only piece that can take the queen is the rook. So the rook goes in, grabs the queen, and now you see the setup here where all of the escape routes of the white king are covered by his own pieces, and the f2 square here is uncovered. So notice the queen is blocked by the bishop here, so nobody is covering that square. So when I place the knight on the f2 square, that's checkmate. Nobody can take it, and the king can't run away from it. So that's game over, and that's the Philidor mate. It's also known as the smothered mate, and it occurs surprisingly often in practice. Here I'll show you another game. This is from an exhibition. No, this is from the Tilburg tournament. So this is an actual over-the-board master game played in 1990. Let's get up to the position here. So yeah, white is the one with the advantage in this game, and he's pressing the attack. So let's turn the board around, look at it from white's point of view. So the first thing you'll notice is that the f7 square here, which it corresponds to the f2 square in the last example, is protected by the rook. But white has a queen and a knight hanging about, so he's got the material for a setup here, and he starts by playing e7. And this pawn push is designed to knock the rook out of the way. So the rook goes to e8, and then he plays the queen check, queen to c4 check. And now the mate is inevitable at this point. So first of all, the king can't go to this square because the pawn is covering it. And he can't come out here. Obviously, the queen and the knight are on that square. It's also interesting to note that even if this pawn weren't here, the king still could not go to the f8 square because queen to f7 here would be checkmate. But so you don't even need the pawn there. You just really need, for this mate, you just really need the queen and the knight. But the pawn did serve a useful role in this game of displacing the rook. You have to make sure this f7 square is not covered before the mate will work. Okay, so the king runs the corner, and now you bring the knight in with check, and the king goes back. And you think, well, is this just a perpetual check? But no, you make a surprising move with the knight now. You go knight to h6 check. And this is a double check. So the queen is checking the king and the knight is checking the king. So there's no time to take the knight because the queen check is still operating. And there's no way to block the queen check. So the king runs back to the corner, and now you get the familiar pattern. The queen comes in to deliver check, and notice the queen is protected by the knight. So the only piece that can take back is the rook. And now the knight comes in to deliver mate. So really you can do this all with two pieces, although the knight has to perform double duty. It has to defend the queen and it has to deliver mate, which it can only do from this h6 square here. So if you go back to this position, it's really important that this move here is a double check because that forces the king to move, and then the rest of it just unrolls like that. So that's those are your classic examples of the Philidor mate. What's interesting about this is this can also occur in the middle of the board. So let's look at another example. Now this example is just a from an opening. So I don't know if this was ever actually played, although it may have been. And this opening is called the the Budapest Gambit. So Black just plays e4, giving up a pawn. And Black plans to recapture that pawn later. So usually it's hard to hold on to that pawn. He starts attacking it immediately. White defends. He attacks it again. White defends again. And then bishop b4 check. And knight b d2. So we start to see the beginning of a problem. If you look at this situation now, the king has no moves. He's surrounded by his own pieces. Even though he's in the middle of the board, he can't move at all. So the queen gets on a line with the king, and White plays a3 to kick the bishop. And I think at this point he's already losing. So this knight grabs the e-pawn, and maybe it's not. It's not losing till one move later. This greedy move here, a takes b4, grabbing the bishop, and now knight to d3 is checkmate. So this is the smothered mate again. The king has no squares he can move to, and because of this pin from the queen, this pawn is not defending that knight. It's not defending the square that the knight is sitting on, so the knight can just deliver a checkmate. So if we back up, here let's put the engine on for just a second to see if at what point that turned into an inevitable mate. Okay, yeah. So even here, White can escape the mate by just playing knight takes e5. So it's a greedy move, like I said, a takes b4, trying to grab that bishop, and that's checkmate. So don't play that move. Be aware when pieces are lined up on your king that this can happen. Let's turn the engine off. One more game. This is another anonymous game, and this opening is called the Blackburn Shilling Gambit. So Blackburn was a English master of the 19th century, and the story goes that he used this gambit to win shillings from amateurs. And let's turn it around. Blackburn is playing black here, and this is the gambit. The gambit move is knight d4, leaving this pawn unprotected. So White can just grab that pawn, and he does. And it's I suppose it's okay to take that pawn, but it's a bit dangerous. You have to be careful. So queen g5 immediately threatens this pawn on g2. And White ignores that threat, but makes a threat of his own. He attacks this rook over here, figuring that, well, if the queen attacks that rook, he can just defend it, and then this rook has no way to escaping. So White's probably feeling pretty good about himself right now. But Black has those two dangerous pieces, the queen and the knight, out around the White king and operating. And the way he can bring this game to a quick conclusion is with knight e4 check. Now, White doesn't want to place his queen to e2, which would actually prevent checkmate because he would lose his queen to a knight. So he defends with bishop e2, but that doesn't work because knight f3 is checkmate. Once again, it's the pin from the queen prevents the bishop from taking this knight. So this square is unprotected, and the king is surrounded by his own pieces. So that's another Philidor mate. And one last example for you. This is from another actual tournament game. Edward Lasker and Israel Albert Horowitz played this in 1946. Let's just go to the punchline here. White is gobbling up some pawns in the center, and black is threatening up an ominous discovered attack here. So knight d2 is played to block that discovery. The queen goes to e5 check, and now this is a fork. It's attacking the king and attacking the knight. So naturally the knight goes back, and but what you see now with the knight in place is that this square here, d3, is unprotected. The knight has blocked the bishop, and the knight is pinned by the queen anyway. So knight to d3 is checkmate. The king has no squares, and nobody can take the knight. So that's the Philidor mate. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'm going to be back in the next episode with some more examples of mating patterns. And leave any comments you have in the section below. See ya. Bye.